Hello everyone, welcome to Cloud Patashala's video series on basic Linux commands. We would be discussing ifconfig. Let's jump into the first command, ifconfig. The ifconfig command is a Linux command used to configure and display information about the network interfaces. It's a command line tool that can view network interface statuses, configure IP addresses, and change the network settings if needed. In order to display the information of the network interfaces, or you could just type in ifconfig. To display information about a specific network interface or network interface card, you could mention the network interface card ID, that is network interface ID, ifconfig. In this example, it is Ethernet 0. If you want to bring a network interface card up or down, you could use ifconfig Ethernet up, ifconfig Ethernet down. The ifconfig command is being phased out in most of the Linux distributions as of recording of this video. It's been replaced by the IP command, which provides more advanced features and it's considered more powerful than the ifconfig command. But you would see all legacy system administrators falling back to ifconfig by default for getting the network interface or the IP address details of a particular server. It's important to note that you may need to run these commands with super user permission, so you can prefix the command with a sudo or run the commands as the root user itself. Also, the output of the if command may vary depending upon the version of the operating system that you are running. So that is, it is different for operating system flavors like Ubuntu, Red Hat, and so on and so forth. Let's look at a practical demo on how this can be played around with. For this, I would be logging into my VirtualBox environment. So this is actually an Ubuntu server which is hosted in my VirtualBox environment. Now that I've logged into the system, what I could say is say ifconfig, and this would give me the details of the network interface card that I have. Now, because this is a VirtualBox VM, I only have one Ethernet adapter or the network adapter attached to this system or this server. I could go to the settings of this and you would see that in the networks I only have one adapter assigned at the moment. Now, if you want to assign a different adapter, you could definitely do it, but for that we would have to power on the VM and then play around with the adapter. So let me quickly shut down the VM. I'll just power off the VM. There's nothing much to be saved on the VM, so I'll just do that. I'll go into network and adapter 2 is now enabled, so I would do it as adapter 2, and this adapter I would keep it as a bridge adapter, no harm there, and then again power on the virtual machine. So you would now see that this is the console that is coming up. I would still be able to log in with my VirtualBox environment going forward. I could just double click on this shortcut that I've created, and this would take me to a login prompt wherein it would ask me for my password for the Ubuntu user on that particular server. Provided the password, I've logged into the system. I'll clear the screen and I'll say ifconfig, and you would see that I only am seeing the default network adapter that we earlier had. But if I do an ifconfig A, it will then show me the new network adapter that has been added, that is ENP, that is 0S3. This is the new network adapter that has been added. Now, what I could do is I could say ifconfig the adapter and then say up. As I'm not the super user, I would not be able to do that, so I would do with this super user, and you would now see that if I do an ifconfig on this, the second network adapter is also enabled, as we see. Now if I have to disable the second network or the newer one, or what I could just say is ifconfig the Ethernet card, and I'll say down, and this would disable the network adapter like we already had. So this is how you could play around with the network adapters or the ifconfig command to configure, enable, disable your network adapters as you wish. Now there is a lot of information that comes along with the ifconfig command, so let's try to understand what they are. You would find that the network adapter or the NIC card would be allocated an IP address. So ifconfig is generally and ideally used for getting the IP information of the server to know what the IP address for that particular network adapter is. So for this instance, we get a network IP of 10.0.2.15. The separate mask and the broadcast IP is also allocated. If you are using IPv6, you would also be getting an IPv6 the IP address allocated to you. There is a lot more other information related to the packet sizes and all other information that is there. In an ifconfig command, we primarily would be looking at what the IP address that network interface card. Like we saw, ifconfig is being disabled or deprecated very soon, and this would be replaced with IP. Now if you type IP, it would not be giving you the basic objects, but what we can do is use the flags that are available on our screen to see what we can gather from it. If I say IP and then say address, so you would see that I am getting the same IP at the same list, but this time I'm also getting the third network interface card that is attached to this server but not enabled at the moment, and you would clearly see that the FQ code L state is down at the moment. If I bring it up, this would then be giving us an IP address and all other things as usual. This is how network administrators and Linux admins identify the IP address of a particular server if they are logging in through a console. This is very important, wherein you would be able to bring the server up or bring the server down in a network. That's it for this video. We would also like to inform you that we do undertake online courses on leading cloud technologies and DevOps, where you would be learning major technologies like AWS, Terraform, Ansible, Docker, Jenkins, Kubernetes, so that you could kickstart your career in DevOps. We hope you like this video. Please like and share the video with as many people as possible. If you're not subscribed to the channel, we strongly recommend you to subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for watching. Keep having a great